Live from a different messy room, it's Pop-O-Holics, a show about hot takes hotter than hot pancakes, where all I want to do is become a chocolatier. My name is Christian Katie. Welcome to Pop-O-Holics. I'm back. I have been on hiatus for reasons I'll talk about in a second. But just as I come back, one of our wonderful co-hosts is gone, but I'm joined, as always, by one of my, I would say my best friend.
Oh, Brian Dupree. How kind. Thank you, Christian. It's so good to have you back, man. I feel like we took a week off, and it's always a little bit anxiety-inducing getting back in front of the mic. I just saw the smile. For those of you who could see me, I was doing my attempt at a creepy smile face. Go see this movie. I love horror movies. It has left me a little bit disturbed, frankly. And so I'm in a particular mindset now.
I've heard it's a bit disturbing. I'm glad that you could take that disturbed energy and bring it to the show.
Yes.
So what is Pop-O-Holics? Well, we usually these are weekly uploads on the show. We talk about the latest in pop culture. Brian brings us some absolutely wacky news. And we talk about what we've been consuming in the world of pop culture. And this week, because it's just me and Brian, as Chris and Brian were doing for the last few weeks, we're actually going to focus just on one review. We're going to be talking about the movie that was released by the time this comes out, like a week ago, Bros, the Billy Eichner, Judd Apatow produced movie that I'm very excited to talk about. Not a lot of people are talking about it. It didn't do so hot at the box office, so I think we're going to give it some much needed tender love and care and attention. But
go see Bros.
Go see Bros. It's like off the bat. Go see Bros.
It's great.
It's a whole lot of fun. All right. But let's catch up on some stuff. Well, before we do that, Brian, there were some corrections I see in the show notes. Did you want to go ahead and address some corrections from... I wasn't here to steer the ship. We couldn't be as accurate as we normally are when I'm here, saying only nothing but actual factual information. So for the listeners, I believe we have it's related to Andor.
So when we were talking about Andor, and I apologize, I want to get this right. We talked about the release order and how every 3 episodes is in a different arc of the show. It's actually, we had originally said that the first season was going to be every 3 episodes, there's a time jump in between them. That's actually not going to be happening until the second season. So the first season takes place over a year. In the second season, every 3 episodes, there's going to be a time jump to get us through that last, 4-year period.
Thank you. I appreciate us updating and making those clarifications. We don't want to be known for giving out false information. But the 3 directors every 3 episodes, that's still accurate, correct?
I actually haven't watched past the first 3. I believe that's true, but I don't want to say with certainty.
Okay. My quick thoughts on Andor. I watched the first 3 episodes. I think by episode 3, it hits its swing, and that really completes that act of the movies. I wasn't super into it for the first episode.
Throw a Skarsgård in there. How can you go wrong?
Skarsgård shows up, and I'm like, okay, now we got ourselves a show.
Or is it Sarsgaard? I apologize.
I think it's Stellar Skateboard is his name. So that's my quick thoughts on Andor. More to come. I got to watch the rest of that. But we were off for a week because there was a hurricane. It was supposed to hit you, Brian. You're over in the St. Pete, Tampa area, and me and Chris are closer to Central Florida. Chris is now in between us because he's moved, and me and Chris got hit way harder. I mean, there was flooding all in Central Florida. It was nutso. We were kind of out of commish for 3 days because you couldn't drive anywhere because it was all underwater. It was pretty crazy. But you're okay all over there? All family's okay?
Thankfully, yeah. We're very lucky. We had some family come and stay with us from Clearwater because they had to evacuate. They lost power for less than 24 hours, thankfully. So by the time they got back, their power was back on. But definitely feeling very grateful. But my thoughts are definitely with the people in South Florida who got the brunt of this because they're going to be recovering for a really long time. And I think this is a pretty big wake-up call for Florida because we've been very lucky the last decade or so with hurricanes. And yeah, it's just it's a scary thing. So just feeling very grateful.
Our hearts and thoughts and everything go out to the people, and especially Fort Myers, the Arcadia, Port Charlotte area. Friend of the show, Nick Hishma, lives in Port Charlotte, and luckily his house sustained only minor damage, but they were out of power for about a week. Barely had cell phone signal, so it was a pretty gnarly storm. And yeah, it just goes to show you, like, I mean, it was the right call. It's always the right call to like evacuate in those situations when you live on the coast. Because if you just look at what it did, I mean, it decimated an Barrier Island. Sanibel Island is like no longer a place. So yeah, I know a lot of people affected by the storm. So yeah, we had to take a week off because like Chris didn't have power for a while, and yeah, all that stuff, and we were dealing with like flooding here. So, but everything's all good. The Pop-O-Holics staff is doing well. And then I was out for like a month because if the loyalist of listeners, if you're watching the video feed, or like the keen audio listeners who go, wow, Christian's room tone has changed a little bit.
The acoustics are just off. What's going on in there?
And they are off. I do need to treat this room. This is going to be my studio/office. So I got a new space. Me and my fiance bought a house that me and my newborn son and my fiance have moved into, and it has been a ton of work, and I've learned a lot of really cool skills, building, like fixing and installing stuff, because it's a little
King
bit
of the caulk.
I am the caulk daddy. My caulking skills are going crazy. And looking behind me, loyalist of listeners can look at paint. Like I painted this whole room, and I painted the trim and caulked the trim, and yeah, I've been installing. I installed some blinds. You can't see them, but doing electrical work, doing all that, because it was a very expensive fixer-upper. The Orlando market is pretty expensive right now, but really happy. We're just getting settled in, and my room's still a little bit messy here. So still a ton of work to do, but thank you, loyal listeners, and Brian and Chris for giving me that time. I still have so much to do, so we'll see if I can multitask and get it done. But that's a little life update, just to bore everybody right off the jump. That's what we do here.
No, it's exciting, man. Congratulations. Obviously, I've had the luxury of visiting. It's a beautiful home. And
Brian helped with the kitchen.
Your son again.
Painting. Yes, you got to see River, and you helped, and I really appreciate you coming up helping. A lot of friends chipped in, so thank you to all my friends and family. It's been a group effort. Brian, you touched the kitchen with your painting skills.
Thankfully, I can at least paint in the kitchen because I can't cook shit, so it's good to know that I'm useful in some sense in that room.
Oh, it was so nice to have you up. So thanks for that, bud. All right, let's jump into the show proper, and let's do things the way that we do, which is starting off with Brian's Wacky News Corner.
Starting off wacky, starting off wacky. Welcome back, everyone. So, Mindy Kaling has an HBO Max animated series centered on the Scooby-Doo character Velma, titled Velma itself, and the cast has recently been announced. So, Mindy Kaling will be playing Velma herself. We have Glenn Howerton, who's going to be playing Fred. We have Constance Wu, who's going to be playing Daphne. And we have Sam Richardson, who's going to be playing Norville, aka Shaggy. Most of these people you probably would have heard of before. Sam Richardson, I was a big fan of in The After Party recently on Apple TV Plus. Constance Wu, they have her listed here in Lyle Lyle Crocodile, but she's been in a bunch of other things. Fresh Off the Boat on TV was one of her big breakout roles. Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Always love seeing him pop up in other things. And Mindy Kaling in the lead role here. It recently went around Twitter. There's another show in the works. Another HBO Max movie that's in the works called Trick or Treat Scooby-Doo, where it was just revealed from the movie having come out and some of the images and scenes being released that Velma's character, who had long been rumored to be a lesbian, is attracted to women in the movie version. We're not sure if that's going to be the case in this adult-themed Velma show on HBO Max. Definitely a possibility as well. As on top of the cast that we've already mentioned, we also have Jane Lynch, Wanda Sykes, Russell Peters, Melissa Fumero, Stephen Root, Gary Cole, Ken Leung, Cherry Jones, Frank Welker, Weird Al Yankovic, and many more. An absolutely packed lineup, as in classic Scooby-Doo fashion.
Cast.
I'm sure there will be a lot of fun cameos. Some people playing themselves in the show, as is the case with some of the old school Scooby-Doo. And yeah, we obviously have a few things coming up here. Christian, were you a big Scooby-Doo fan growing up? Did you watch any of the handful of shows and reboots that they made with the Scooby-Doo, or the live-action movies that they made as well?
Scooby-Doo was a staple in the Katie household. I loved me Scooby-Doo, the Hanna-Barbera TV show. I watched it so much. And then some of the Cartoon Network original movies, or at least they had the rights to the television premiere of that one where there's like undead and they're like All Real Monsters. That's not the name of it. All Real Monsters totally is a Nickelodeon show. But there was the one where they were like actually ghouls. They weren't people in masks. So I remember seeing that. The live action movie I saw in theaters, but I was getting older, and I think that movie has become a cult hit and has a lot of merit. I kind of want to revisit it, but kind of, obviously I've fallen out of the Scooby-Doo fandom. But this cast gets me extremely excited. Obviously, most excited for Glenn Howerton
as Fred. Inspired, absolutely so inspired good. Casting.
And it's like a super. It's he's like Scooby-Doo. I'm just ready for the people go like, Scooby-Doo's woke too, but I'm like, cartoon characters, come on, they can be like anybody. Like, I think it's great. I think the cast looks insanely good. I'm kind of disappointed it's animated, to be perfectly honest, because I think these actors and stuff could portray it in live action really, really well. But we'll see. I definitely, the cast makes me excited. Obviously, in it being like adult themed and adult written. So that I think it's a really smart choice, and I'm excited to see what they do with it, especially under this new Discovery wing. This is a post-Discovery approval, right? So
that I'm not sure if it was approved before it came on, or if they had already gotten it and they didn't cut it.
They didn't kill it.
Yeah, so. At least they didn't kill it, right? Is it Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island, the one you were thinking of?
I think that's I don't know why I thought All Real Monsters. Totally other show.
But yeah, so that's Velma, the Mindy Kaling-led HBO Max series that has just announced a all-star studded cast. The next piece of news, the Oregon Trail, the semi-iconic, notorious... We have been
fucking waiting for this, Brian. We've been waiting.
This is... So, from Lyle Lyle Crocodile's directors, the songwriting duo, Pasek and Paul. Your favorite
characters from Oregon Trail, such as cholera and dysentery.
I think it was Variety who had tweeted... "You've died of dysentery" with musical notes, and it was just an absolutely incredible tweet from Variety. So shout out to whoever's hosting their Twitter over there. But the Oregon Trail is getting a musical film made. So for those of you who don't know, this was an educational game that has been around for decades and was kind of the go-to early computer lab games in public schools. So it's a game where functionally you're a character going on the Oregon Trail, and in semi-realistic fashion, you tend to die in every direction. It's just like everything you do pretty much leads to death. You died of dysentery is kind of like the classic hilarious one that's like, okay, someone's going to die of dysentery at some point on this trip. I always loved, and I'm not sure if this was in the original version of the game, but the hunting segments, when you're not actually just like making the selection, you have to actually go out and hunt. So there's a little bit more to it. But we are getting from this duo a musical version of this story, and this duo has been responsible for the music for La La Land and The Greatest Showman, and they also wrote the stage play for Dear Evan Hansen. So obviously ridiculously acclaimed. I believe they won Grammys for their work on La La Land. So the music's going to be solid here. They're not sure if it's going to be an R rating or not. So this could be a full-on balls to the walls insane project. I'm very hopeful for this because on paper, it's a video game adaptation, right? But with this video game, it's so basic to some degree that I feel like you could put pretty much anything on top of it, in this case, a musical, and whatever else they want to add. So what do you think about the Oregon Trail musical? You said you were excited for this piece of news.
Every night I lie in bed, the threat of dysentery fills my head. I'm dreaming of the Oregon Trail. I have no fucking clue what this is going to be, and that's the most exciting thing, Brian.
Exactly.
What the fuck is this going to be? It's kind of like the Joker musical kind of thing, where it's like, I am not going to be the one to shit on musicals because I've been in a lot of them. I used to do musical theater. I'm a big fan of the idea of them, but they don't come to film nearly enough and nearly like great enough fashion. But I'm a fan of the music from The Greatest Showman, and that movie overall I think works. But I love the fact that we may be getting to like adult musicals. It's very exciting. It could be a total disaster of an idea, but
Oh yeah.
I'm excited, and I think I think we are in an age where these video game adaptations, these people have grown up playing the video games that are making these things, and so I think it can tap into that nostalgia while also, telling an interesting story. And obviously, these people know how to make fucking jams. Okay, they make some tasty jams. So we're gonna get at least like the Oregon Trail song, and it's gonna be memed to death. So. There's something that's going to come from this, and it's probably going to be some good ass music.
I think so as well. I will say it's something that I could have brought up last week, but it's relatively old news.
For the river now. I don't know. I just try to think if I had to do an Oregon. It's a good experiment, like make an Oregon Trail musical. It's a good challenge. Anyway, sorry, Brian, I cut you off.
No, you're fine. Another thing, this one is even weirder perhaps. The Matrix, it was announced, is being adapted into a musical as well, I believe. Maybe even a hip-hop musical. And, oh my gosh, I'm going to blank on his name.
Lin-Manuel
director.
Miranda, hopefully.
Director of Trainspotting.
Oh
gosh.
I'd have to Google it.
We are absolutely, I'm so sorry. We're going to kick ourselves. I'm already kicking myself.
Well, you don't have to edit shit, so, it's mostly me.
Danny Boyle.
I thought it was Danny Boyle, but I'm like, there's no way he's not thinking of Danny Boyle. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, sorry. So, it was announced recently that Danny Boyle supposedly is in talks to make an adaptation of The Matrix that may be a hip-hop musical. So, Hollywood is getting bold, and I'm kind of here for it. Bold swings, even if they miss, I'm generally in the game for. So
as long as it's not directed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, that's all my only ask. My name is Nia. When I'm here, my name is actually Anderson. I'm a computer hacker that is looking at the Matrix. I don't know. It's my terrible Lin-Manuel Miranda. You know how he's got a Skippy. I call him Skippy. It's very.
You could tell at times things that he's written for sure.
Yeah, I think every time. Anyway.
I don't know how we got to crapping on Lin-Manuel Miranda, but that's the Oregon Trail musical film.
Morpheus,
going to be adapted.
You gotta understand this. Gotta telephone myself out of this.
You had mentioned Joker. We have a new Spawn movie that's in development, has found new writers, and one of which is one of the screenwriters of Joker, Scott Silver, as well as the screenwriter behind Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Malcolm Spellman, and a relatively new writer named Matt Mixon, who are teaming up for this at Blumhouse. Jamie Foxx is currently attached to star. Todd McFarlane, the original creator of Spawn, the comic, and he was very involved in the TV shows and in the movie that was made, I believe, as well. I haven't read the comics, but I did watch the HBO, I think the first season at least, of the HBO show, and I thought it was actually pretty great. It's a kind of like R-rated adult animated series, very dark, funny as well in some sense. So I don't have a huge history with Spawn. I think the first live action movie is kind of notorious for being not particularly good. It's something that I haven't seen, so I don't want to crap on it too much because I often find myself coming to movies like that and sort of loving them.
Brian, it's a joy.
Is it?
The original, it's John Leguizamo plays like a big fat undead clown. It's a treasure. It's a treasure. I love the original Spawn. It's like not a good movie by any, and it has it has really, really, really early 3D animation, like a demon, but looks like PlayStation 1. It's awesome. It's awesome as fuck. It's a treasure.
Interesting.
No, it's a treasure. It's a good time.
Todd McFarlane was originally thinking of directing this, but with the kind of higher tier talent that has come on, I think he stepped back to hopefully maybe even get someone who is a bit more established to helm this and get it into further into production. So, okay, it sounds like something that you might be interested in then, especially with the writer of Joker. I know you're not a huge fan of Winter Soldier Boy, as you like to call it, Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Falcon Winter Soldier Boy.
Would you be here for a new live action Spawn movie?
I'll tell you what I'm most excited about, and it's the fact that it is not attached to DCU or as far as we know, and
Doesn't have to fit into a canon.
MCU. Yeah, it's exciting, and it's a more adult film, and so I think it has potential to be just like a really fun side thing that it can be its own. And we've seen that be so successful with things like Shazam, and even with Logan, with these Joker, these side stuff where you get really creative people to take on some of these comic book characters, and you don't have to be as attached. Like, there's a lot of great potential. But the original Spawn is a classic, and I won't have you shit on it on this podcast.
Hey, this is just what I pulled from the ether. I have not seen this movie, so I'll put it on the list. I will check this out.
It might be worth a Pop-O-Holics commentary track. It's that important.
Okay.
It's intense. It's good.
Good to know. So that is the Spawn live action that has just announced its writers. Moving into some stuff that's coming out this week, starting with some TV, we have the Winchesters coming to CW, premiering this Tuesday, the 11th. So this is a spin-off prequel of the long-running series Supernatural, which just ended in the last few years, I believe. Stars Meg Donnelly, Drake Roger, Bianca Kajilic, Demetria McKinney, and many more. It's narrated by Jensen Ackles, who plays one of the main characters in Supernatural, but it's following his father and mother, I believe, and their story and how they met. Set in the 1970s, Dean Winchester narrates the story of how his parents, John and Mary Campbell, met, fell in love, and fought monsters together while in search for their missing fathers. We don't talk about the CW a lot. I think people tend to think of their content as being a certain tier of not particularly good, and obviously they're only at a certain level of production budget. But with that being said, Supernatural was a ridiculously long-running show. I feel like it went for 15-plus seasons, and I have heard some people who are kind of diehard fans of it. So I wanted to shout this out just in case we have some Supernatural fans listening, and you're looking for that Supernatural itch. Hopefully this is something that can provide that for you.
Yeah, a lot of our mutual friends are big fans of Supernatural, and I've seen a fair amount of it because people tried to get me into it. And there, it's a cut above most CW shows. I will say that.
Okay.
Just watching the trailer and reading the comments, it seems to be some controversy because there are a bunch of diehard fans, but people are actually saying the questions this series answers are irrelevant and like have already been answered, and that they're scared it's like going to involve like really bad memory wiping because it seems like the narrative hasn't been what they're telling. So they do think this might be like shoehorned storytelling.
Retcon the series.
I mean, you have 15 seasons of previous narrative, and you're trying to make a prequel to it. I mean, you have such a diehard fan base. It's tricky territory. I can't speak with any authority on it, but people seem to be like upset at the narrative because it didn't seem to match what was already previously established. So a little supernatural controversy that neither of us could give any relevant insight
I guess
into.
This is just from promotional material that people are pulling things from because the show's not aired yet, right?
Yeah, but it's in the trailer. No, in like the trailer, it gives you the basic story, and it conflicts.
Okay.
Like
so
the trailer conflicts.
Wow.
Yeah.
That seems okay. That's interesting. We'll have to read up a bit more once it comes out and see what people are thinking on that.
Yeah.
But that's The Winchesters, which is premiering Tuesday on the CW. This Friday, we have the first season of Shantaram coming to Apple TV+. So this is a drama thriller that is based on the novel by Gregory David Roberts, and this series is created by Eric Warren Singer and Steve Lightfoot, directed by Justin Kurzel and Bharat Nalluri. It's the story drew inspiration from Gregory David Roberts' own life, which is about a bank robber who flees Australia to India to escape after having robbed this bank. It's going to be 10 episodes and, stars Charlie Hunnam and Richard Roxburgh. This was not something that looked incredible to me, but because it's coming to Apple TV Plus, because it's based off of a popular novel that's based on a true story, this looks like it could be a fun ride. Obviously, being based on a novel, I imagine this is going to be a limited series as well. I don't think it specifies that here, but 10 episodes, always appreciate a nice self-contained story. And Charlie Hunnam, I've seen him in a couple things. I've more heard of him and heard people be impressed with some of the stuff that he's done than seen his work. but him being the lead here is also a solid selling point. So that'll be on Apple TV Plus this Friday. Going way back to the early days of the Pop-O-Holics, one of our first, if not our first, in-person recording was covering David Gordon Green's Halloween 2018, the sequel to the original Halloween, and the start of his trilogy, which is part of a quadrilogy with the original movie, I guess. I think they're calling it the H4O trilogy.
It's good. It's good. It's good marketing.
Pretty good. Yeah. Pretty good.
Yeah.
So,
and then when the second set of trilogies come out, it'll be the H2O. And it will be all underwater.
The H2O is already a movie in the series. That's yeah. I haven't seen these movies, so the non-David Gordon Green ones, except for the first one. This film, again, stars Jamie Lee Curtis, as well as James Jude Courtney, Andy Matichik, Will Patton, and Kyle Richards, who are all reprising their roles. I'm not going to say this Wikipedia line because it seems a bit spoilery, even if it may not be. But this is going to be the end of the trilogy for David Gordon Green, so seemingly going to get some sort of closure here. I don't want to say too much about plot because the end of a lot happens at the end of the second movie in Halloween Kills, and I don't know. I don't know how to talk about these movies without spoiling them, but I had a lot of fun with the second movie. I think it may be not as strong of a film just by itself as the first one is, but I think both of them are worthwhile seeing and doing interesting things with the character. David Gordon Green definitely got the goods behind the camera. And Halloween Ends. Yeah, it'll be out this Friday for the spooky season. Hopefully it gives a satisfactory ending to the Michael Myers multiple series of content. Are you gonna? Did you even see the second movie, Christian? You didn't. Okay.
No. It's not my, it's not my bag. But it's the spooky season, so maybe I can dive into watch the second one. It does. I liked the Halloween 2017 Leo's reboot quite a lot, but I liked it a lot for a genre movie that I'm generally not interested in. Hearing that Halloween Kills is not as good. Because Halloween, the 2017 one, we got like
was
a
received.
homo.
I had a ton of fun with it.
Okay.
It was received. I think it was critically received less well.
Okay.
But I don't know. It's got laugh out loud funny moments, which you have to be a certain type of person to enjoy these sorts of movies in that way.
Yeah,
but if you're in for it, it's a lot of fun.
The guy gets decapitated. It's so funny.
Well, this is the thing. There is an undeniably hilarious murder scene. Like, it's laugh out loud funny. But I think intentionally to some degree. But there's also something that, while heavy-handed, is at least attempting to say something with Halloween Kills. So there's something to it. So yeah, that's Halloween Ends, the end of David Gordon Green's new trilogy that'll be out this Friday, the 14th. Oh, and it'll be out in theaters and on Peacock day and date for the paid tiers of Peacock only for 60 days, I believe.
Yeah, actually confusing.
Moving on, we have coming to Netflix this Friday, The Curse of Bridge Hollow. This follows a man and his daughter who must team up to save their town after an ancient and mischievous spirit causes Halloween decorations to come to life and wreak havoc. This is just a classic Halloween story concept. This is directed by Jeff Wadlow, stars Nia Vardalos, Lauren Lapkus, Priya Ferguson of Stranger Things fame. She's the daughter in this. Father played by Marlon Wayans. We also have Rob Riggle and many others in this. Kelly Rowland as well. This is the kind of movie that looks like a great introductory horror film. Watch it with the kids, maybe relatively younger to skewing. I just watched Hocus Pocus 2 with my family for movie night this week. Very easy, lots of decent laughs in it. And a nice, like I said, kind of introductory horror film, something I grew up watching Halloween Town, Disney Channel kid, and that series I feel like was a big part of inspiring me to eventually end up loving the horror genre. So I wanted to shout this one out. Going to be available on Netflix this Friday. That is The Curse of Bridge Hollow.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun, like you're saying, family. I think it hits a market that is severely underserved with good content, which is like, Halloween, like focused on family friendly. And Marlon Wayans has got the comedy scream like nobody else does. You only get one in the trailer, but You know, you get one of those and you're like,
Yes.
sign me
And
up.
looks like we might get some Killer Clowns from Outer Space homages from the trailer. I don't know if you got that vibe.
Yeah,
But
a little bit.
always down for some Killer Clowns from Outer Space references. So yeah, that'll be on Netflix this Friday, The Curse of Bridge Hollow. Finally, coming to Hulu this Friday, we have Rosaline. So this is directed by Karen Main from a screenplay by Scott Neustadter and Michael H. Weber. Stars Caitlin Dever, Isabella Merced, Kyle Allen, Bradley Whitford, and Minnie Driver, and is based on the 2012 novel When You Were Mine by Rebecca Searle, which in turn is based on Romeo and Juliet by William Shakespeare. So this is from the description, fresh and comedic twist on Shakespeare's classic love story, Romeo and Juliet, told from the perspective of Juliet's cousin Rosaline, who happens to be Romeo's most recent love interest prior to Juliet. This looks like an incredible concept for a comedy, a perfect way to adapt Shakespeare in what does actually feel like a fresh twist on the story, giving us a little bit of outside perspective. The story of Romeo and Juliet, even if you haven't read it, I'm sure most people know the basics of it. But I think it's going to be fun to kind of look from the outside to see this family drama. And Caitlin Dever has been solid in pretty much everything I've seen her in. So always good to see her getting another leading role here too. So that's Rosaline. That'll be on Hulu this Friday.
Okay, I've got some thoughts. This is from the Fox acquisition. And this is another movie that looks like it was supposed to be released in theaters by 20th Century Fox that has been unknown for what Disney wants to do with it because it's like a teen drama. I see this being such bait for all the young ladies out there that are like theater or literature kids. Eccentric, creative young teen ladies and gentlemen of such. And it looks great. It's one of those things where I do feel like it's getting short shrift by similar to Prey being put on Hulu. But I can't help but think, and this is just me as a almost 32-year-old man looking at this trailer, and I see where the demo is, and I'm like, I think this movie's firing on all the cylinders it needs to be this. But you watched this trailer, right?
Yeah.
Did it take you like the entire trailer to be like, is she actually from like 2022? And
there's one line. She literally says, "Blow me." And I'm like,
so I couldn't tell if all the characters around her, because it actually gave me like
I feel like it's going to be part of the gag. It's probably part of the conceit, right?
Right. It gave me like Kid in King Arthur's Court vibes, where you play someone from modern times into like Romeo and Juliet time. Because she's all like, what the hell's going on here? What's up? They're all like,
Jane,
doth thou protest too much? And she's like, whatever, blow me. Like,
I think that's, I literally rewound. I'm like, wait, did she just say blow me? Like, what?
I noticed it right off the right off the jump, because she's talking about her ex, and she's like, yeah, we're totally not talking anymore. And he's like,
yeah,
well, that might be rather despondent of you to, and you're like, wait, is she not from this time? Because everybody else, it's interesting. I think it's fun, but it was jarring.
No, I hope it works well, because the recent Jane Austen adaptation that I think went to Netflix called Persuasion, with the lead from 50 Shades, I'm blanking on her name at the moment, but she played that role. I saw clips from that, and people were similarly talking about language there. I think she says something like, I never trust a 10 or something like that. Like, very modern sort of thing to say that's just outlandish given the time period.
It's like, GTF, are you GTF? And she's like, GTFO. IDK.
Yeah, so we'll see how it lands, but yeah, again, we're probably not the target demo for this either. So
no, absolutely, and I want to respect that. And then I am like, it looks like a fucking movie. Like, it looks amazing. Like,
there's kind of there's like a Weekend at Bernie's bit that's happening that looks great,
and it looks good. Like, it looks like a movie
production quality.
Yeah,
you mean
production quality. It's great. Yeah, sorry, I've been off the pod for a while. No, it looks like a great, well-budgeted movie, and it does not feel like it fits on Hulu. But these are the times. These are the interesting, trying times we live in.
Hey, hopefully, like Prey, it finds its audience and still gets good, buzz, word of mouth online.
Good streams.
Great streams.
Great streams.
So that's Rosaline. That'll be on Hulu this Friday. And that wraps it up for the news.
Hell yeah, Brian, hell of a wacky news corner. This is the part of the show where we would normally jump into what we've been consuming individually, but what would I be consuming? Lots of drywall dust would be the answer, and I wouldn't have much more interesting to say. So me and Brian decided to pick a movie. We were actually up between like Blonde and Don't Worry Darling, and we were worried because it's me and you, two straight cis white men, and there was Blonde talking about the history of Marilyn Monroe, and I love
or not talking about the history of Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah, I love movies like Some Like It Hot, and I'm like a casual fan of Marilyn Monroe's work in the past, but I would not be an expert. I think she fucked Kennedy or something, but I don't know anything beyond like that pop culture stuff. And so we didn't feel smart enough to talk about that. And then there was Don't Worry Darling, which Olivia Wilde's new film, which has a whole bunch, like Harry Styles saying he loves movies that are really like movies. And we didn't feel particularly qualified to talk about that. So we're like, let's pick
And thankfully, Don't Worry Darling, there's been enough discourse around Don't Worry Darling, I think. And thankfully, even though I don't think it's an incredible movie, I think it's worthwhile watching. And I hope Olivia Wilde continues to be able to make original projects, because I think she does have the goods, even though this does not nail everything thematically. The visual stuff is interesting and the production design is beautiful. Excuse me.
Did you drink?
I don't know why I'm so
the most carbonated water before we recorded. It looks like you got a soda fountain and just turn off the water part. I'm just gonna breathe the CO2.
I must not be breathing appropriately or something. This is being off the pot for 1 week.
Out the mouth. Olivia, you were saying Olivia Wilde doesn't have the goods. Only Jeremy Piven has the goods.
No, she definitely. I think she does have. She definitely has the visual goods. I think the movie. The failures come from the script. For me,
real third act problems.
To some degree, yeah, to some degree. But thankfully, the movie is making money, and I think it's going to be a success in terms of theatrical. Like, it'll make enough money to hopefully continue allowing her to make these budgeted movies and even bigger. Blonde obviously is ridiculously tricky because. Well, I don't even want to get into it because it's a bit spoilery. But yeah, there's just so much that you could stick your foot in. And let's go, bros. It has not made very much money at all. And the discourse around it has been, Eichner, to his credit, made a really solid movie here. And I understand when you put your heart and soul into something, it hurts if people aren't immediately receptive to it. And so some of the comments he's made, some in jest, some not in jest, can feel a little bit like, are we obligated to see this just because of the content of it?
Yeah, we're bearing the lead. Let me get a proper
Okay. Sorry.
So that's why we decided. I kind of made the executive decision. I said, Bros looks solid, and nobody's talking about it. Brian, you hadn't seen it at this point, and I heard it bombed, and I was like, this seems like one of the more interesting things that we could probably talk to a little more, because although we're not gay, we are cis white men, and so we're like 2/3 of Billy Eichner.
And podcasters.
And podcasters, which is revealed, luckily dropped very quickly, that Billy Eichner is a podcaster. So me and Brian decided to watch Bros, and I'm going to roll the trailer for it, and then we're going to talk about it.
Hey guys, it's Bobby Lieber coming to you from the future home of the LGBTQ+ Museum. Everyone is really excited and totally getting along.
This happens to be Bisexual Awareness Week, and no one has acknowledged it.
Lesbian History Month was in March. Nobody said a goddamn thing.
Of course, lesbians get a month and we get a week.
So what's happening? Didn't you guys have an announcement?
This is a little unexpected, but we are in a throuple situation.
You're in a throuple? Let me tell you what's progressive now. Being alone. I love my life. I love my freedom. I love my independence.
That's kind of sad.
That I don't want to be in a throuple. I don't even want to be in a couple.
Bobby, I had sex with that 65-year-old.
Jesus, he's ripped.
I know, it's like they injected steroids into Dumbledore. Oh my God, that's Aaron. He's very hot.
Gay guys are so stupid.
I know. But we've been smart enough to brand ourselves as being smart.
It's our little secret.
met a guy?
I don't think I'm his type. He's like gay Tom Brady.
What are you into? One of these ripped idiots with no opinions?
No, I'd like someone who's physically very frail and won't stop talking.
And I bet he's as intimidated by you as you are by him.
I'm down for whatever.
Yeah, I can do whenever and I can do whatever.
Cool, whatever, whenever. GIF of Michael Scott dancing. Office GIF? This person isn't gay.
I need you to be honest with me.
You like these rowy, meathead idiots. Oh, they're fighting. You like that?
Hey.
I can be tough like your boys.
Like
oh, that's what you like, huh?
Hey, what's going on?
Oh, that's cool. How about it?
Happy Pride.
That is from the trailer of Bros. It's directed by Nicholas Stoller, known for his work on Neighbors and Bridesmaids, other Judd Apatow produced stuff. Written by Nicholas Stoller and Billy Eichner. Score by Marc Shaiman. Cinematography by Brandon Trost. With a budget of $22 million, it has grossed $6.4 million. And we'll talk about more about what I think the future of this movie holds. I do think it has some promising cult potential for how just friggin' hilarious it is. But it stars Billy Eichner, Luke McFarland, T.S. Madison, Monica Raymond, Guillermo Diaz, Guy Brenham, Amanda Bearse, and many more. And Jim Rash. Oh, we got to mention Jim Rash. And Bowen Yang. Sorry. We'd keep going because it's a great star-studded cast. Notably, like 98% LGBTQ representation in the cast. There are some like cameos and stuff from some like the most there's really famous people that are not, that are very briefly mentioned. We won't spoil that. And what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to talk about our history with Billy Eichner and what we know his work from. And we'll do a quick non-spoiler review, and then we'll go into spoiler talk about some of our favorite moments, and then have some final thoughts. So let's start out, Brian. We were talking pre-record, and you were telling me, you're a big American Horror Story fan. I'm not. I've seen, I think, one of the seasons, and I was unaware that Billy Eichner was in that, and that's what you were most familiar with. So tell us about your history with Billy Eichner inside of that and anything outside of that.
Yeah, so you had mentioned Billy on the Street. I know I've seen random clips, whether it be on YouTube or I'm not sure if it used to be associated with the late night show, but I've definitely seen a handful of clips and kind of knew of Billy Eichner just in a general sense from that. But then, yeah, he started popping up in a handful of seasons of American Horror Story. I think Apocalypse is the one where he's possibly playing starting in some of the later seasons, they start bringing characters back because it's kind of like all part of the same world to some degree. Eichner's character in the back half of Apocalypse is one of my favorite characters of any of the seasons. Just absolutely batshit. He is one of the main characters in Cult, as well as one of the secondary main characters as well. But yeah, done really solid work there, and I think this role kind of allows him to flex all of his acting chops in a way that I haven't seen before. Because obviously we know he's funny from the Billy on the Street stuff, and to some degree from some of the American Horror Story stuff. But this really was the first time I feel like he got to kind of open up emotionally and really give us some solid performances to let us in with when his persona can sometimes be more bombastic and kind of like all out there. I thought seeing the quieter side of his performance was really surprising here.
Yeah, I'm mostly familiar with his Billy on the Street. I went through a stint a couple years ago where me and my fiance binged like a few seasons of Billy on the Street. And if you're in the mood for it, man, it's really hysterical. And he's really good at kind of improv, obviously doing the kind of Sacha Baron Cohen thing where you're dealing with like real people and really exploiting as his character. He also interacts really funny with celebrities and clearly has a lot of like friends in the industry. And yeah, similar to you, I think I expected him to be funny, but what's kind of revealing to me about the performance in this movie is that he's kind of not the funniest part of the movie. Like I think he's very witty and he's very quick. And he's a very well-written and surprisingly dense character. But really, it's the supporting cast that really shines. And I think his performance and him kind of opening up and being an asshole in some ways lets other characters shine. And I think that's honestly like one of the best aspects of this is such a fantastic supporting cast and a really, really, really tight script. almost too tight and just to bleed into my opinions of Bros in general. Was I went in with expectations that it would be like mildly funny, but a little like, to be honest, as like, I do love some rom-coms, but I would say it's not my favorite genre. I'm much more a fan of the Judd Apatow rom-coms, which definitely elevated my expectations a little bit. But, I was a little interested to see, like, how is a gay rom-com going to work for me? I'm a straight bully. I love women. I love them to death. And, Brian, I had a revelation that I think that the gay rom-com could be, like, my favorite genre of rom-coms. I think it really has the potential. Because there's something I was saying earlier in the pod, I'm trying to find ways to phrase this, but there's something about a heterosexual relationship where there is like intimacy and stuff where it can be a bit distracting. Like if you're thinking, I don't know, too much in my brain. And it kind of got me thinking why, like, and I think Billy Eichner shows this and the team shows this when they talk about, there's a lot of references to other romantic comedies. And, Billy Eichner has admitted and Luke McFarlane in interviews that like they love the rom-com genre, which is mostly straight relationships. And I kind of like have an appreciation for this movie more than any other rom-com because it must be like how a gay person watches like a regular ass rom-com where like there is this abstraction of watching this intimacy happen where you don't see yourself necessarily in it. So there's a little bit more like separation from the attraction. Because I think sometimes in straight romantic comedies, you ask yourself, oh, am I a lot like that person? Would I be attracted to that woman or man if you're a woman, straight woman watching it? And I think that when that's gone and you can just see two humans connecting in a way, like for me at least, watching this, it gave a really interesting perspective into that. So I really enjoyed just the premise, and obviously it's fresh because this is the first like big romantic comedy, big studio film that features a homosexual relationship. And it doesn't hurt that Billy Eichner is such like a pop culture fan that there's a lot of like celebrity and Hollywood jokes, and there's a real appreciation not only for, his character centers around someone who's like building an LGBTQ museum. So there is a lot of homages to the history of homosexuality throughout. And it's not super heavy handed, but there is that, right? And it
doesn't feel, on that point though, it's so well integrated into the plot that while you may be learning things, it doesn't feel like you're being taught, in a bad way. It's like it's perfectly integrated, and I think that was a really smart way to handle that. And even they get into some stuff about Abraham Lincoln that we can maybe get into in spoilers, but kind of showing the contention between how the queer community talks about their history and what they acknowledge.
And that, like, someone who has a ton of friends, particularly through some of the work I do. I have, and living in Orlando is very pride centric. It's like the pride capital of Florida, because it can feel like an oasis sometimes in the state, especially lately. But Orlando is a very pride centric. Obviously, the Pulse nightclub shooting happened here, so like there is a lot of rallying point around Orlando Pride. So we have a lot. I have a lot of gay colleagues and stuff. So I'm very familiar with that. With a lot of people in that community. And I love that this film didn't stray away from how much they disagree sometimes and how much infighting there is, and kind of the personalities that collide around that coalition. We think of, a lot of people think of like the LGBT community as like a singular voice, and really it is, it's so many creative, interesting people that often disagree on stuff. So I love that was on display. But not only all that, like that's a part of it for sure, but just the central, I don't know, there's something drew me in about the central love of like film and history of romantic comedies that's homaged so much through this. And the fact that this is kind of a historical film, I don't feel like it's too up its ass. Maybe some of the conversations from the creators around it maybe a little pretentious. I can see someone seeing that, but the actual film in and of itself, just seeing it, there was a genuine love for the history of the medium and a lot of jokes played at it that I appreciated that aspect. And then at the end of the day, you have a rom-com, it's got to be about that central relationship. And I think it's amazing. I think it's a great on-screen. Really, the standout is for me is Luke McFarlane. Is just such a sweet, hilarious, subtle, and in combination with a juxtaposition to Billy Eichner, who's very, very, very like out there. There is a lot of really interesting stuff, and the movie could have gone to tropes so easy. For the life of me, I saw the trailer once and I was like, oh, that looks pretty funny. And for the life of me, maybe got it confused with another movie, but I was waiting for the shoe to drop where like one of the characters was going to reveal that they hadn't come out, and it was going to be, that was what a lot of the drama would center around. And that never, you know, a little slight spoiler, that really never happens. There's some elements that they talk about that have to do with that I think are much more powerful. But it wasn't as straightforward as that. So that kind of surprised me. And I really think the central relationship is just amazing here, and one of the best on-screen comedic relationship tales I've seen. To me, it obviously there's a lot of gay shit in this movie. You know, it's so romantic, but it's. I had someone reach out to me and ask me, because I told a lot of friends, I think this is really funny. You should all go see this. And someone said something like, "Oh, is it like, how is it compared to Bruno?" And I was like, I think Bruno is violently and aggressively homosexual in a way that's meant to like shock you. Like that's the weapon. Like that felt like Sacha Baron Cohen having a statement to the audience that had cultivated around Borat, where this feels like, this is like you're watching a gay romantic comedy. It does not feel like what Bruno was, but it was interesting to hear that people were maybe a little bit worried about being assaulted with homosexuality for some reason. And it was an interesting question. But I really, all I can say is it's a fucking hilarious movie. And yeah, it's got two gay guys in it, but it really stands on its own terms. And as formulaic as it is, because I do think it follows those traditional rom-com tropes, I think that it feels fresh in the content because it is a story we don't see a lot. But also, it's just straight up funny. That's at the end of the day, that's the best thing I could say about it. Anyway, a lot of thoughts there. Brian, your overall thoughts on Bros? Yeah,
I think I'm pretty much in the same boat. I mean, I may be a little more of a fan of romantic comedies than you are from how you led into that. It's not my favorite genre by any stretch, but there are definitely ones that I'm a huge fan of. And if you like a good rom-com, this is going to give you exactly that. You did mention this movie does not stray from the classic rom-com formula. You're going to see how it goes coming from a mile away, but the characterizations and the relationships and the way things happen work so well that you're okay with it. And as Christian said, the movie is very aware of all of the history of rom-coms that have come before it. So it's kind of playing around with it to some degree too. Consistently funny, absolutely laugh out loud throughout the course of this movie. Yeah, it's unfortunate because I think there is an element of, even from some of what you've just said and some of the conversations around it, of just embedded homophobia, where people are just worried about, like, scared of gay sex, scared of even things that hint at it. And it is really unfortunate. And this movie, you know, if you're worried about that, don't be worried about it. Unless you hate gay people, you know, this movie is not going to gross you out or anything like that. It's a relationship movie. Won't gross you out any more than I mean, I would say if, like, there are probably not any listeners of this show, but if something like certain scenes from, I'm trying to think through Judd Apatow's career, but like there's some like raunchy stuff that happens in Bridesmaid, that happens in Forgetting Sarah Marshall. You know, if that level doesn't gross you out, I don't see anything in this film that would. Whereas I know people that don't like anything raunchy, and there is sex that's depicted, and it all involve men. But I don't. But as you said, it's not any more graphic than anything else you'd see in a movie just like this in a straight sense, right? And one of my favorite gags is actually during a sex scene, and we'll talk to it in favorite moments. But hilarious bit that happens in one there's a pun there with favorite gags, but I'm too above that. Low hanging fruit, excellent. Okay. Well, you don't see any low-hanging fruit in the movie. There is surprisingly, I will spoil this, there is no male genitalia, to my knowledge. There was one scene, the scene that I was actually talking about, that ends up being a gag, where I was like, is that a foot or is that a dick? Unclear. It's so quick, I was like, it may have snuck one in there. But yeah, I'd certainly like that, gentleman, if you were confused whether something was a foot or a piece of male genitalia. They are. Yeah. So as I said, is yours as big as your foot, Brian? Because if so, good on you. We're not going to get into this
We're talking
on the
bros,
podcast.
Dude. We're gonna talk about
as I said, I saw where this movie was coming, but by the end of it, I still got swept up in the emotion. My whole heart was completely full by the end of this movie, and it brought me to tears. Which it's funny because there's an emotional moment that happens. I semi-spoiled it for Chris, maybe, if he's ever going to watch it. But it's a gag simultaneously, but also like a really beautiful emotional payoff moment that is just incredible. And I don't want to give too much more context before spoilers, just to avoid giving too much away. But yes, as a long single podcaster myself who constantly talks about depressing shit to an annoying degree, I found Billy Eichner's character to be very relatable in this movie. Yeah. And, to your point earlier, obviously this is about gay relationships, so it's partially different. But the idea of being someone who is nearing middle age or in middle age, not sure if you could see yourself with a partner long term or how that would even happen. I'm very much in that stage of my life right now. Just on that level, I think it worked really well as well. And as you said, he has depth. And we really get a couple of moments where he is so far beyond anything one note, as is all the other characters in this movie. We see that this community is not a monolith, which is very much what the movie explicitly says as well. There's a scene that, in terms of relating to this character, there's a dinner table scene where, my God, if I haven't hated myself so many times for being in this exact situation and just not shutting the fuck up, just not being able to, because you're so passionate, and it's understandable why you're passionate. But my God, if I wasn't just like squirming in my seat watching this. And like I said, the movie's hilarious. It's relatable. It's a really, really great movie. So
yeah,
I don't know
the specifics of it being, and I think, part of it's kind of the burden it has to bear because it is the first big studio movie, 2022, by the way.
And it shouldn't be understated. Like you said, he had to fight for the casting. It's like you don't get $20 million out of nowhere,
Yeah. And, it kind of sucks that movies like this have to be a stick. Because, it feels like the movie
they have to represent something because there's so few of them, right? Or they seem to.
And what sucks is like our whole conversation, which I think it rightfully should be, like we're experiencing the first big studio gay rom-com. So we're going to talk a lot about how gay it is, in a lot of ways. And to me, sometimes, like in a lot of these contexts, I do think it diminishes the fact that it's just fucking hilarious and it's sweet. Yeah. And the like you talked about the universality, I came across and where I'm at in my age, I see a lot of these movies and I look at a person like Billy Eichner and I go like, I see maybe an older version of myself in some ways, in ways that I have gotten better at not overdoing who I am. But the central question of what he struggles with, I think there's this monologue that happens that he has halfway through the movie that hit me like a ton of bricks. And
about confidence,
about confidence and someone questioning how he's so confident. And dude, that hit me so hard about like that thin veneer of like, I don't know, the whole thing is like confidence is a choice at the end of the day. And that was like, oh yeah, man, that's relatable on a human level. And I think any good art is going to do that. And again, and the movie makes fun of it, why it shouldn't be a big deal to like enjoy a movie like this and not really, obviously, again, we're talking about the homosexuality of it, but this is what gay people have been doing, watching straight movies for the fucking last century. It's
like, yeah, guys, just take a step back and realize that you were never going to fuck Angelina Jolie in that movie either. No. You were fantasizing. It's a similar reach to relate to these people.
Yeah, and I guarantee you this is way better than that. I saw a trailer for Julia Roberts and what's his name?
Gorgeous George
Clooney. And I went like, I'm so much happier I'm watching this movie instead of that. As much as that could be a lot of fun for like, I don't know, my mom or my dad.
Yeah,
probably my mom more so. You see where that movie's coming. And I don't think it'll give you the feels that it gave me. And like, there's genuine like heartwarming and like revelatory stuff that's happening on top of the fact. Again, I cannot stress enough. I was in a very big theater with a very few people, and I would say this is before we get into spoilers. I think this movie is more appealing to straight people. I think maybe that's what some of the controversy might be about. I think they might have made it too appealing to straight people. To give you context, I went into a giant theater. It was playing in the main theater. This theater I'd never been to. It's closer to my house, my new house, that I now own, which is very nice. I have a house. I'm a 1%er, Brian. I'm a 1%er now. So I went to this movie theater. There was 2 gay couples. I'm assuming that they were gay couples. They were same-sex people that were close and cuddling the entire time. Maybe they weren't. Maybe they were good friends. Finding out.
Gay presenting?
Who knows?
Not sure how to...
Yeah, I have no idea. But they seemed like 2 same-sex couples that were next to me. And it was just me. Big theater. And I definitely laughed way harder than either. Again, small sample size, anecdata. But I was laughing out loud by myself. And I actually am kicking... Like, we tried to get a babysitter because Erica loves... My fiance loves Billy Eichner. And I'm so mad, there's things you go through when you have a kid, but I'm so mad I couldn't watch this with her because I think she would have loved it too. And I was really sad that she wasn't there with me because I think that she would have fucking loved it, maybe even more than me. And I can just say that the gay couples enjoyed it and they laughed a lot. They did not laugh as hard as I did. I was laughing the entire time. And I think maybe it's because it's a very pop culture funny movie. Like there's a lot of pop culture references that for sure. Maybe were pretty dense for people. So, honestly,
time's going over my head. Like there are a handful of references. I'm like, this is supposed to be a punchline, and I don't know what they're talking about. But that's fine. It's like
well, I'll get it to in spoilers. There was a scene that confused me, and I heard someone contextualize it. I still need to Google some stuff. Okay. But there was a scene that legitimately I was baffled by. So and it's a part of the gay community that I don't know. So I have to look into it. But I'll talk about spoilers. Anything before spoilers, Brian, that you want to mention?
Go see this movie.
Hell yeah.
I mean, it's a bummer. It's well written, it's well executed, it's emotionally effective, and it's hilarious. So you're not going to regret going to see this one. And I really hope that this can kind of leg out in a substantial way going forward.
It will.
And kind of. I really hope
truly
that
think it will
can.
because I'm kind of I feel like I'm a what do you call it? I'm a promoter of this movie.
You're a bro.
I'm a bro. I told a bunch of people, and like I can't tell you how many people said I heard it was bad, and they don't know where from. So it's so confusing. And I was like, no, go fucking see it. It's very funny. People that I know for a fact are not homophobic. That told me I heard it wasn't funny. And one person even said, "Oh, my gay friend didn't like it." So I was like, "Why would I like it?" And I think the secret sauce is that it doesn't matter. I think you'll either not like it or like it, and I don't think it has to do with your orientation. There's a lot of in jokes for those in the LGBT community, but yeah. Anyway, go see this fucking movie. It's very funny. It's a very funny movie. Cool. Let's move on into spoilers for Bros starting now. Brian, biggest spoiler. Billy Eichner and Luke McFarlane, they get together at the end. I
thought the spoiler was that they're gay.
They're straight. That's the whole...
Yeah, they're actually...
It ends up being a straight rom-com.
They're actually straight. Yeah.
That's why it's for straight people now. Man, there's so many funny moments. But before we get to like some of the hilarity, I do want to rehash that scene with Billy Eichner on the beach. I really think it's the best for me. It's one of the best parts of the movie that hit home the most. Like the whole love stuff is like all well and good, but it feels very cliche. But there's some revealing stuff about both Luke McFarlane's character and Billy Eichner's character. But that whole speech about confidence is a choice, and you always have to be like, I just decided to be confident. It's like, for someone where I have also had that conversation with people where people are like, oh, you seem so comfortable. It's like, I am dead on the inside and I'm freaking out all the time and everything feels scary, but you have to just make the choice, and how much he struggled with that. And also from his character standpoint, how much he's opening up to Luke McFarlane's character. And then again, I think the secret sauce in this movie, Luke Macfarlane's performance is so fucking good. It can't be understated. He's so sweet in that moment, and he's just listening. And at the end, he goes, "You want a beer? You want another beer?" And, you know, he tries to dance for, I don't know. That to me was like the moment where I was like, oh, this is working so well with these two characters like falling in love with each other. And that was the moment I felt like that Billy opens up. He's never said that to anybody. And I was like,
right. No, it's absolutely adorable, and it's genuine, right? There's truth to it, and that's what feels so real. Even in a scene that I agree that's probably the strong moment in terms of the emotional beats, aside from my the kind of climax of it all. But even in the moments later when he's talking about not being able to, like, he lays out how he had never been happy before, and he had started to see inklings of happiness, and just how the lack of trust has kind of made things toxic for him. Yeah, and
that's very universal.
It's ridiculously universal, and something that even with someone who doesn't have trust issues is always going to have to deal with that sort of thing. And opening yourself up to someone means being hurt inevitably, right? So I just think, and this is kind of fundamental rom-com territory, so it's not breaking any ground there.
Yeah.
But ultimately, moving into my favorite moment, we have
the
whole
you go
movie.
There, I just want to say one last thing on the beach scene, which is, I did want to point out that it seems, and it's something that's universal to me too, where there is this inherent jealousy that Billy Eichner has for the next generation. You know, he makes like the Glee comment and everything.
Right.
And that was also like hit me home, but also must be harder for a man that old who grew up where it was, his career was like Billy Eichner's career actually was legitimately just so much harder because it was like he was getting so much pushback. And the line that really hit me the most was like, even though my dad was really supportive, you know, even at one point he said, hey, this is like too much or whatever. And like him dealing with the fact that he's too much of who he is, like in the frame of the context, it is too, like he is too quote unquote gay. And he's talking about the gay agenda, as it were, too much. And that's the frame of reference. I think that more universally, sometimes it feels hard to be yourself when people say like, tone it down. And I think, you know, that stuff definitely hit me a lot harder than I thought. And it does seem to be from personal experience. And it made me think about a lot of older gay actors and stuff who just didn't have as many opportunities because these roles weren't like available and stuff. And the fact that going through auditions, going through stuff and just hearing like, oh, it's a little too gay. And you're just like, fuck, you know, and now it's something that's being embraced and you're old and kind of past your prime. Like that's fucking kind of sad. And like, I guarantee you Billy Eichner actually deals with that because he's a very talented guy. Who seems like he's fought really hard.
Yeah, no, it definitely felt like he was speaking from personal experience to a large degree there. I'm not sure about his relationship with his parents, but talking about how unfortunate it was that his parents didn't get to see where the world went. And, you know, we get one of our characters as well. It was someone who I've seen in other movies in bit roles, but I'm blanking on his character's name because he's only in the one scene. But they show a photo when they're in Provincetown.
Oh, yeah. The older
Mickey or something like that.
I'm not
Marty,
sure.
maybe.
No, Marty is the throuple.
Oh, that's right.
Person, yeah. I forget too, but it's an older gay person, and he just casually mentions like, oh, all the people in the photo, like most of them are dead because of AIDS and stuff, and even that generation even had it harder. Right?
Exactly. So it's like you see kind of that progression of like things are happening, but it's like it's never fast enough, right? Is kind of a thing that is hard, especially as someone from our perspective, right? Who thinks like, oh, things are in, you know, it's easy not being the oppressed group to think things are better than they are. But really getting that perspective of, like you said, Eichner coming up in this world that awards so many straight people for playing gay and in only a very specific type of role, if not just pure caricature. It's got to be ridiculously difficult. And I'm sure so many actors, and young and old, are going to be able to relate to that in the industry, aside from in Hollywood, as well as just generally in the world.
And also it speaks to, as well, again, the cult. And I think there's a very funny scene. I want to get to your favorite scene in a second, but just while we're on this, you know, the LGBTQ thing is like, it's funny because Billy Eichner is kind of like leading it, right? And he is kind of the end all, say all of the decisions that are being made. But you see this like fight too with like his relevance of being like the new thing. There's kind of this idea of him being like a white gay guy is less, he's safer still than other members of the community. And there is that struggle with like, hey, but we're still not at the point where I feel comfortable in having to manage all those people's expectations and the trials that they're all going through like that. It's comedically portrayed really well, but you can see how it's like everybody just assumes that like gay people are cool now because Obama came along, right? But really there's still all these consequences for all the things that happen, and it's still not perfect. I think it's the movie never hammers you over the head with a lot of that stuff, but I do think it is there, and I do think it informs the drama and the comedy alike. But let's move on into to your favorite moment, Brian.
No, yeah, I'm not gonna be able to speak on it as eloquently because, like I said, it is a bit of a it is kind of just a bit, but the whole movie we get Eichner's character making jokes about oh gosh, I'm so bad with character names. Aaron. Luke McFarlane's character, just being being into stereotypically straight things like Friends and The Office.
And working out, and he talks straight.
Right, all of these things, and his favorite artist is Garth Brooks. And that being like, just completely like, Eichner is just like, goes against everything he stands for and everything he holds dear. But him loving him so much to basically make a Weird Al style parody romantic song of a Garth Brooks track that is actually ridiculously heartfelt and touching while still being funny as well. And it's very much like playing on the heartstrings, like eat it up, this is what you're here for. But I need a heart refill like that sometimes. That sort of hope is regenerative for me, especially as a long single man, as I said. But yeah, I just thought it was really beautiful. And then Eichner's voice is great as well. It's not like, I don't know, I'm not sure if he actually went to school for singing as his character did, but I was pretty impressed with his singing ability here as well, which I think is actually
clearly has some musical theater background. I don't think, it's an interesting choice. I think it works well for the joke. I'm way more critical. I think as far as rom-com third acts, someone sings to their lover. Again, very, very classic rom-com trope.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid. I think having him do like a halfway country thing, he didn't really fully go for country, and he doesn't fully do his own voice. So that was a little jarring for me. I think it mostly works. There's more of like a specific thing of like, you could have gone more twang or no twang. And I don't like the in-between that he hits. But this is such a nitpick. In between. He's in between. To be honest, but that's such a nitpick. But I'm always gonna be like hypercritical.
Yeah, I thought he was putting on a voice for it. So, but yeah, I could see that.
I would say when he does his bro voice, which is a very funny scene, where he's like, "Hey, dude," he turns his hat backwards.
The slow-mo hat turn is so good.
And when he comes out of it,
the guy freaks. Can you imagine? My God, horrifying.
Oh yeah, it's so funny. But he commits to that voice, and I feel like there's not that level of commit with the Garth Brooks singing.
Okay, fair enough.
That would be, again, it's a very, very minor nitpick. It's the only thing I would share on Pop-O-Holics. Okay, I want to get to a scene that I didn't quite understand, and maybe Brian, you'll have some insight.
Okay,
I don't. To this day, I'm 32 years old. I would consider myself a man of the world. I don't know what a popper is. And I heard some critiques that this was like a nice moment because it's very popular in the gay community to just do a popper. And not make a joke about it. It just happens and it's just part of the scene. I don't know what a fucking popper is. I have to Google this. But apparently,
I'm Googling right now as we speak.
Okay, so you don't know either. Okay, but like it's got to be some sort of like amphetamine, right, or something.
Slang term to a broad class of drugs.
Okay.
Alkyl nitrates. Yeah, this is not particularly helpful.
I don't know. Maybe it helps.
Relaxation effect on involuntary smooth muscles, such as those in the throat and anus.
Oh.
Used for practical purposes to facilitate anal sex. Okay.
All right. See, look, this is us getting educated.
Boom.
Yeah. So they just do a fucking popper, and then they just move on from it, and it just happens. And I think that's like probably a good thing, but I also just was confused because I was like, I've always heard about them, but I don't know what they do. But it makes sense because I've personally never needed to relax my anus, but maybe it'd be useful in certain
Because it's already just so relaxed.
Well, yeah,
Just like
exactly.
super.
I got the chillest anus on the block for sure. It's very. Brian, any other funny moments?
The one I referenced earlier, where we know that Luke McFarlane's character is frequently having sex with a married couple, two other men, and he's about to leave to go there and leave Billy Eichner's character, and he's like, "Billy, wait," and we get a shot of them having this really sweet kiss, talking, and like, oh, I had such a great time today, da-da-da. We pan out to see him getting blown by those dudes. It's just, one of my favorite purely visual gags this year. Just an absolutely hilarious moment.
It's very funny, very classic. It's a very similar scene. And again, I think this is why, like, it'll be hard, to me, I think it'll be really hard to be uncomfortable if you're like really, secure in your straightness. It'll be really hard to be uncomfortable during a lot of the sex scenes because they're either very sweet or very funny. And one of them is he's convinced to have a foursome. It's like a threesome at first, and Steve shows up, and Steve is this weird dude who like has to pop from behind and like pillow fight. He's like trying to
He like belly flops on top of all three. It's so bad.
Billy ends up having to massage his back. And he's like, yeah, that wasn't fun. I didn't like that.
Not good. Not good. It is a funny bit though.
I want to shout back. I've mentioned it probably twice already. The scene where they're all arguing about like what the museum's like final act is going to be.
Yeah.
And they're all fighting. And Jim Rash's character, because I do think like everybody knows that bisexuals get just the shortest shrift in all of this. Because there's like a level of like, oh, you're like, even in the gay community, it's like you're undecided and like you're not a real thing. There's all this. So the fact that Jim Rash is playing the bisexual representative and being like, we only get a week and like always arguing about it. And the Lincoln thing is so funny. And then when he's like, there's no evidence Lincoln was gay. He might have been bi.
And eventually they're just like, shut up, man.
Oh, and the lady that plays the lesbian representative, oh my God, she's so fucking funny. She's so good. She's not given enough screen time. I'm not sure what her name is. I want to say maybe it's, oh God, I'd have to look it up. Maybe Ann Shepard, Amanda Beers, is it? I don't know. I'm not sure who plays her, but she's fucking fantastic. It's just like, because she's kind of like a butch lesbian type, and oh my God, she's just so funny. I mean, the whole LGBTQ roundtable for the museum.
Deborah Messing wants her to help her open the door.
Yeah.
Lesbians have their shit locked down.
Incredible. The way that she goes, lesbian, like she orders them around as lesbians.
It was a good bit.
There's so much good reference to about like other movies, and that's like obviously where you do a movie podcast, so we got a lot of like love and reverence for it. But like in this movie specifically, it's kind of their first walk and talk, and man, they're putting the man in Manhattan, and you get these moments of it like being referential to something, and you get Billy Eichner and Luke McFarlane walking around. It's a very Manhattan scene where they're walking around, they're walking, talking about stuff, and Luke asks, they are asking each other what their favorite movies are, and Billy Eichner's character asks Luke McFarlane's character, "What's your favorite movie?" And he goes, "The Hangover." And they have this whole thing about how that movie begins. It's like, and we're just okay with it. We're just okay with how that movie starts. And then Luke McFarlane will be like,
He reveals,
that's
just fucking around. He's messing around. Just riling him up. Adorable. Such a cute moment.
Oh my God. And the way their meet cute is real fun too, because he just like keeps Batmaning away from the conversation. Aaron keeps disappearing.
I literally said Batman in the movie. Yes, it's perfect.
Yeah, and how frustrated Billy's getting. That's good. That's a lot of fun. Any other funny moments?
I don't have any other specifics, but yeah, I was laughing consistently throughout the course of this.
Bo and Yanks.
Just absolutely absurd.
I had said on the show before that I didn't think he was that funny. This is the funniest thing I've seen him in because he does this.
Okay,
haunted,
so you're sold.
I'm sold. He pitches this haunted ride,
and they make all the absurd ideas is incredible.
Ronald Reagan, shining city on a hill. Jeez.
Oh, great stuff.
And then he's like, "You're too old for the pool
to be in the pool. Yeah, you can't come to the party,
so you can go." Very funny. God. Okay, the last one I'll mention because we're just talking. We're just
remember when?
Remember when's? Yeah. When Billy does steroids and then gets in the fight and he's like, "I'm on steroids."
I think he also later says like, "I have rage."
It felt like a deconstruction of your third act character falling apart. There was this level of awareness throughout, but then we're going to throw Lincoln back in the closet.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not kidding, man. I was like laughing, crying, and I'm by myself. You know, it's easier to laugh with the crowd and stuff. There wasn't a big crowd, and I was fucking laughing. I couldn't imagine. And I feel like apparently like, the premieres of this show was like bringing the house down, tears, crying and stuff. And that's like it's like one of the saddest things about how funny this movie is that like, dude, a packed house with this movie would be, you wouldn't hear half of it, I assume.
Right. Yeah.
So go see this fucking movie. If you listened to all that and you thought any of it was kind of funny, we're obviously not doing it justice. It's a lot funny. Brian, any final thoughts on Bros?
No, I think we've said it. This is a really easy recommend, and I'm hopeful, as I said, that everyone listening, if you haven't watched it, go out and watch it. Recommend it to others. We need to continue taking chances on different movies with different main characters, and if we're not going to show up for them, money talks in Hollywood. Unfortunately, that's pretty much the only thing they listen to. So we got to try and support these movies when we can.
Yeah, and it's not like. It's fun. It's a genre that, the raunchy rom-com, in wake of a lot of Judd Apatow's work, like, Knocked Up and even Superbad to extent. It's like a high school coming of age, but there's like romantic elements. But it's in this genre of like raunchy, like Animal House, like raunchy fun comedies. And at its core, that's what it is. And it just, happens to center around a gay couple. And I think it's unfortunate that it has to bear the burden of being like the first one of its kind, and the conversations all being about that, as we've talked about before. But it stands alone. It's just a really funny movie, and I was really excited to see it. I might have been primed for this because I've been working my ass off for like 2 weeks working on this house, and I hadn't seen a movie. Andor was the only thing I saw, and that's not it's not like especially a laugh riot. So I do think that I was like primed to really have fun at the movies. And this was certainly that. So go take your friends, go take your girlfriend or your boyfriend or whatever, your significant other. I think it's a good time. I think it's a good time at the theater. I think it's just a lot of fun, and it will surprise you with some heart. So
the progressively more ridiculous Hallmark spoofs were killing me throughout. A guy that I forgot that was, So,
which is an inside joke, I think, because Luke McFarlane, most of his career has been like low budget, made for TV, like Christmas movies. And
I didn't realize that. Okay, so there's even more to it. Okay,
which I think what a talent that's been revealed. I mean, I think he's amazing in this movie. I do think there's a lot of depth to his character as well. He really is one of the standouts for me because he's so sweet. He's just such a big old lovable goofball who's surprisingly like funny and smart. And like the joke is when he starts that is like boring, but really, he's just as funny. He's just like actually drier. He's just a little more quiet. And he is he's a guy's guy, and I think a lot of straight people relate to him. He's very much a guy's guy. But he also has threesomes with a guy and his husband. Don't hate him for it. Hate the player, don't hate the game. You know what I mean? But that's Bros. It's a lot of fun. You should go see it. Brian, that's going to do it for our Bros conversation. Where can people find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at True Pop-O-Holic.
And you can find me at Christian Katie. You can also find my band at Midnight Satire. This is my new music studio, so I'm very excited to get back to work. I still have a lot of work to do around the house, but hopefully I'll have some new music next year. I'm hoping to do some of that, Brian.
That's exciting.
We're going to have new Pop-O-Holics. Yeah, I got a couple dems. I'm working on. We'll see where it goes. We're going to have new Pop-O-Holics. We got a lot of exciting stuff planned for next year. I think we're still going to have a very busy end of the year, bringing you the weekly upload and then some surprise and hopefully some really exciting news next year. So we got lots of plans. We're going to be very busy. But follow us on all the social medias. If you're listening on the audio feed, we do have a YouTube. If you're watching on the YouTube, we do have an audio feed. They're going to be lockstep from this point forward with the same content. So consume the way that you want to consume. We're expecting Chris back in a couple weeks, I think. I don't know. I'm not the planner. I just
I think he'll be out again next week and then back the following week if all goes as planned. It'll
be like 2 months of the Pop-O-Holics completely. We're like Avengers Infinity War. We're all like separated across the globe. But we'll get the trifecta back very soon. And I think that's all I got to plug. Is there some sort of a giveaway that we're doing?
We'll save it. We'll save it.
Okay, we'll save it. There's giveaways coming, so subscribe and comment and all that shit because it'll help. What are we talking about next week?
We haven't decided. Yeah, we haven't decided. Question.
You want to watch Athena? I've heard good things about Athena. Have you seen it yet?
I have not seen it yet. Is it on Netflix?
It is. Yeah, it's on Netflix. It's a French film. And I've heard nothing but great things. So email us if that's something you're interested in or if there's another thing you want to recommend. Pop-O-Holicscast@gmail.com. Comments, questions, concerns, recommendations. We still got to figure out next week. So if you got something you want to hear about, tell us. It'll be great. Or an email us, do it. Rate us 5 stars. And we're going to wrap this show up the way that we always do, which is with Christian's TikTok of the week.
Everyone knows Mario is cool as fuck. Horrible opening. But who knows what he's thinking? Who knows why he crushes turtles? And why do we think about him as fondly as we think of the mythical, non-existent Dr. Pepper? 3 question marks. Perchance. You can't just say perchance. I believe it was Kant who said experience without theory is blind, but theory without experience is mere intellectual play. Mario is experience by crushing turrets. Stop. All day. But exhibits theory by saying, let's it go. Keep it up, baby. 5 question marks. When Mario leaves his place of safety, stop eternity. He may die. Okay, question mark. A man who can purchase lives with his money. A life becomes a mere store of value, a tax that can be paid for much as a rich man feels any law without finding some price. We think of Mario as a hero, but he is simply a 1%er. Why are we saying this? The more privileged variety of the life kind. Perchance crossed out.
I'm not gonna lie. That does not work in the audio.
I can't understand half the words he's saying.
Listeners, you'll just have to go to the YouTube, check that one out. Skip to the end. That'll do it for Pop-O-Holics. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for listening, y'all. Inclusive language here at the Pop Squad. I gotta send you the TikTok.